Now for the first reading. Just before I do the reading, I would like to remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded, and that when we read this passage, we're inviting people to find a word or a phrase that resonates with them, but not to put it on chat at this stage. So the reading from Luke 24, verses 33 to 43. That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. While they were talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were startled and terrified and thought they were seeing a ghost. He said to them, "Why are you frightened? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet. See that it is I myself. Touch me and see. For a ghost does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While in their joy they were disbelieving and still wondering, he said to them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate it in their presence. We'll just pause for 3 minutes. Julie is now going to do the second reading, and we'll have it posted in front of us. Thank you.
That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. While they were talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were startled and terrified, and thought that they were seeing a ghost. He said to them, "Why are you frightened? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet. See that it is I myself. Touch me and see. For a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And when he said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While in their joy they were disbelieving and still wondering, he said to them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate in their presence.
So we're going to pause now for 5 minutes, and then we'll invite you to raise your hand or put the chat in the chat that you would like to share a word or a reflection. it's now your opportunity, I guess, to share. But I would like to just stress that time is limited. So in the sharing, you need to be fairly brief, 3 to 4 minutes, and to stay close to the text. That's really important, that we don't go off onto other topics, but we stay really focused on that. So please feel free to share. Terry, would you like to share?
Morning, Paul and Judy. Well, good day to you too.
You too.
Yeah, it's a lovely passage, and I'm kind of doing my best to immerse myself in that scene. And how does it relate to me? And for me, the key phrase is peace be with you. Not to be frightened in the presence of the Christ, that higher vision. And I think what happens when I meditate is that I become ever more Christed, and I'm not to worry about kind of losing, how can I put it, losing the world, if you like, and seeing another world, seeing the same world, but seeing it with different eyes, seeing it with the eyes of Christ. And there's an ordinariness about this passage as well, which is reassuring. This sense of table fellowship, eating together, that speaks to me, as grounding, embodying. So it's an incredible passage. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. I think Belinda Bentic is going to share too.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful reading of that passage. And for me, what came out was, do not be afraid. And it tapped into my own joy and fear on my path of discernment. And then I questioned, why do doubts arise? And I suppose it just tapped into letting go and connecting with more, as Terry put it, a Christ-like way of looking at things. So it just tapped into lots of good stuff, exciting stuff. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Belinda. And Julie Withers, please.
The words that came to me were companions gathered together. Because of circumstances, I've been unable to join this group for many months now. And it really is important to me that we do gather as companions. We are walking along the path, and gathering and being together is very, very important. And I'm very glad to be with you.
Thanks, Julie. And Tetsu.
Yeah, thank you. Jesus said peace, and I think this peace is the fullness of life, or blessed life, or blissful life. And the disciples couldn't believe it. Today in Japan, for lots of Japanese, life is constant battle. Life is battlefield to survive. And there is no space for peace. And lots of people can't believe it is possible to live blissful life or blessed life. So with daily meditation, I really want to walk on the way of peace, which is the life of bliss and the life of God's life. Jesus. Thank you.
Thanks, Tetsu. Nice to see you again. Mhm. And Lisa Tostra.
Jesus says to them, look at the hands, my hands and my feet. It is I myself. And that reminds me when I read the Greek, that he says, Hoti ego eimi autos. Ego eimi was the way they spoke about God. God, the prophets and God says to Moses in the burning bush, it is me, it's I am the one. So it tells us that we come quite close to God. He opens the way to God in a different way for us. That we can be peaceful and trusting, and He is real. It's a new reality, which I think is a joy to share with you. And we share it together. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Janet.
Thank you. The phrase that I chose was how He had been known to them in the simple act of breaking bread. And it was that simple act that really struck me and reminded me of our own simple act of meditation, and that we come to know Jesus not through the grand gestures that He offers, but in His own simple self-presentation, His authentic place in our life. So a strong message for us about the simplicity in the way in which we live, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. And Janet. Janet, you just need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. It was a coincidence because I put my hand up at exactly the same time as Janet, and I had written down exactly that phrase, He had been made known to them, because I had the feeling that there was just this divine enabling. It wasn't we saw Jesus, it was He had been made known. And I felt that was a new awareness. We're going from one kind of reality to a different way of seeing. And in a way, it was gifted to them. And I suppose that reflection is similar to what Terry said earlier. So, yes, thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you again. That's lovely. and Magda.
Fred. Hi to everybody, but strikes me most of all, and it is so much in life, and their eyes were opened. And very often, even in today's ways, we walk around and we don't see. Only after we say, oh, I missed this and I missed that. And the moment with Christ must have been also that they thought and they didn't know and they didn't think, and all of a sudden they realized, oh, it is the Christ. And in our life today as well, very often we believe, but we don't see. And then we say, oh, I got it. And what a relief it is in life if you really get it deep down in your heart that love and love is always the right thing. And when you see in the scriptures very often Christ, how often did he say, do you love me? Because even he was in doubt that the apostles don't love him. And in our meditation group and around the world, we are all on the same wavelengths, the same thoughts, the same giving and loving one another. We get up early in the morning and we stay up late at night just to be on the same wavelengths, to love one another, and we open our heart, thoughts, and giving to one another. And this is what cleans the toxic air around the earth. And we are healers and givers to the nice, good air we should have, not the mean, distracting air world we have at the moment right now. So let's our eyes and hearts be open and keep open it to one another with love. And thank you. Love you all. Take care.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. So I think that brings us toward the end of our time together. And before we finish with prayer, I would just like to give Mark Kenny the opportunity of making an announcement about future meetings and what his requirement is. He'd like to talk about that. So Mark, could you talk?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mark. I've met some of you before, and I have been tasked with finding future speakers for Benedict's Well. So if you would like to volunteer to speak about your spiritual journey or something about meditation or a Benedictine theme, then I've put my email in the chat. I hope it's there. Yes, it's there. Yes. So if you would like to email me, you might not want to speak yourself, but you might want to recommend someone to speak to us. If they're in a quite tricky time zone, then they could possibly make a video and we could share it. So yeah, please send me your emails and I will respond and explore with you what you might want to talk about and whether it might be appropriate or not for this community. So many blessings to you all.
Thanks, Mark. And we're just going to have a final reading of our passage and then have our closing prayer. And Judy will do the final reading.
That same hour, they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. While they were talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were startled and terrified and thought that they were seeing a ghost. He said to them, "Why are you frightened, and why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet. See that it is I myself. Touch me and see, for a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While in their joy they were disbelieving and still wondering, he said to them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate in their presence.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you to all the contributors tonight. It's been a lovely, really marvellous session. The sharings have been very profound. So I thank you for that. And we'll just have our closing prayer. May the divine assistance be always with us.
And with our absent brothers and sisters. Amen.
Amen. And I return you to Julia to complete the night.
Thank you, Paul. All that remains now is for me to finish today's session. Can you believe that next week we will be up to week 5 of our 6-week Lectios? Time has absolutely flown. But I would like to thank everyone who has taken part this morning, to Judy and Paul for leading us, and for everybody who contributed to the sharings. It's been a wonderful week, as always. And I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we will have Father Lawrence with us next week. So I'm sure that will be very special. So in the meantime, have a very good week. We look forward to seeing you next week again. Bye and God bless.
Thank you, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you to all. Bye-bye. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you.